The role of women in building resilient and inclusive communities is identified as one of the 4 pillars in the background paper for this dialogue strand. COVID-19 has exacerbated many of the inequalities that women were already facing across the globe, and in some cases heightened their insecurity. Gender inequality means that a society is likely to have a greater propensity for conflict. Therefore, efforts to improve gender equality, including women's participation and their rights, are central to ensuring sustainable peace. Peace operations have demonstrated that they have an important role in responding to the needs of women in the areas where they operate. In the context of peace building and sustaining peace, I offer 3 thoughts for consideration in the context of women, peace and security. First is the importance of gender analysis, from the earliest planning phases of any country or mission presence through to the drawdown and transition of a mission. It is important to understand the different power structures, needs of different groups, and how these intersect with different drivers of conflict and elements to build peace in the country. If 2020 and COVID-19 has reminded us of anything, it is that such needs will not necessarily remain static and need to continue to be evaluated. Second is the meaningful participation of women across all aspects of society, peace processes and institutions. Here it is not just about the numbers, however, but the ability of women to influence various stages throughout these processes. In terms of meaningful, it's useful to reflect on a statement in the latest Secretary-General's report on women, peace and security, which notes, "The symbolic, superficial, last-minute or ad hoc representation of women without the real opportunity to influence the outcome of processes cannot be considered enough or acceptable." Therefore, in this context, how do we support and measure women's meaningful participation as part of efforts to build and sustain peace? What processes and mechanisms are viewed as important, and what access do women have to them? These are questions that we need to continue to ask. Finally, we need to consider the gender expertise in different transition functions and missions. For instance, the latest Secretary-General's report notes that very few resident coordinator officers have a dedicated gender experts in their offices. These functions may need to be strengthened beyond peace operations, but it is also worth noting that women, peace and security is a responsibility of all actors, not just those that have been tasked as gender advisors or focal points, or a responsibility that simply gets left to women. This means accountability measures need to be put in place in terms of leadership, financing and reporting processes across all of the different entities operating where there is a peace operation. Ultimately, it is about ensuring there are sustainable mechanisms in place in the legal, judicial and security institutions that support women's rights and their voices, and that will remain after a peace operation departs.